This time yesterday, Apple unveiling a new set of iPhones, and it's also hoping to crack new countries, isn't it, like China?
That's right. It's already existing in China, but it doesn't have quite the scale that it would like because it doesn't have a deal with the biggest operator there, China Mobile. Well, it's been at an event in Beijing this Wednesday showing off the latest range of iPhones, and that followed an event just a few hours earlier in California where it was showing off both a high-end and a low-cost iPhone. Luke Brown has more.
Apple wants it to be the new gold standard for smartphones, hence then perhaps the new colour scheme. Apple's iPhone 5S boasting a fingerprint security scanner and a 64-bit chip to double its processing speed. Performance and styling it hopes will justify the price tag. At almost €900 here in France, the 5S is the most expensive mass production handset on the market. The 5S's price range in part explaining the interest directed at the lower budget 5C, with prices starting at $99 in the US with a 2-year operator contract, that for a phone as powerful as almost anything Apple has released to date. But in reality, the 5C won't be that cheap, coming in at €599 in France for an unlocked device. The twin launch highlighting Apple's double objective, consolidating its position as a leader at the upper end of the range and penetrating emerging markets like China and India. A means of turning around its falling market share, having lost ground to Android devices in the past year. That's seen Apple's share price fall by 30% in the same period, but by aiming to encroach on its competitors' territory, Apple risks losing its pioneering status, a point underscored by rival Nokia, whose UK wing tweeted that imitation is the best form of flattery.
OK, well, that's the new phones, but as you said at the beginning there, Matthew, it's China that Apple really wants to crack, isn't it?
Yes, because it's been losing ground there. In fact, it's the number 7 smartphone operator in China, behind rivals like Samsung and China's Lenovo as well. So it's hoping this 5C low cost, as they're calling it, although as we heard in that report, it's not that low cost, will help them break the market. Now, at this event in Beijing earlier this Wednesday, it was expected that they were going to announce a deal with China Mobile, as I said before, the biggest operator, but no deal has been announced, and that will cause some disappointment for many, because if you look at the figures, how the number of customers of the big mobile network stacks up in China, you can see from this that it dwarfs the next two where, in fact, Apple is available. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be a deal at all. It could be that it'll come in the days or weeks to come, but no deal as yet between Apple and China Mobile.
One to follow, of course. Staying in Asia, what are the markets doing there?
Well, in Asia, investors seem to have been listening pretty closely to what President Obama was saying earlier about Syria. That, of course, has been having an impact, and as military intervention, at least for the time being, seems like less of an option. Markets seem to be slightly encouraged by that. Just the Hang Seng in Hong Kong slipping back slightly in trading.
Now, you've got two pieces of company news from the US. The first one involves the British retailer, though, doesn't it? Tesco.
Yeah, Tesco. They're beating a retreat from the US. They had this fresh and easy food chain, and they are offloading all of their stores there, or at least 150 of their stores, to the Yucaipa investment company. It's going to be a costly departure for them, though. Tesco's estimated it'll cost about €175 million for them to pull out of the US. One other piece, as you said, of US news. This is about the mobile operator Verizon. They are launching a bond sale, I should say, to raise $49 billion. That will be this Wednesday. Now, if it's successful, it'll be the biggest corporate debt sale in history. And the reason they're doing this is because of that takeover that they're going to do of the stake that Vodafone holds in the Verizon wireless joint venture. It's a $130 billion acquisition, so they need some readies to do that, of course.
Now, in France, a power struggle. This is at the top of the media and telecoms group, Vivendi. It may have calmed down a little bit anyway for the time being.
Yeah, this is a classic sort of French boardroom scandal here. Vincent Bolloré is the group's biggest shareholder, and he's been in a long-running tussle with the company chairman, Jen-René, but it seems like they've managed to come to a bit of an agreement. Vincent Bolloré giving an indication he's not going to try to take over the running of the company, and Mr. Fortu saying that he's likely to step down as chairman next year. But we will hear more from a board meeting later this Wednesday.
And finally, the Frankfurt Motor Show. We were talking about it yesterday, weren't we? All about innovation, of course. Matthew's got one that could very well help you with a parking problem.
Now, you remember you said you would get a smartphone if it could help you do the ironing.
Yeah, I did.
Well, how about this? A smartphone that helps you park. You get out of your car. This was presented by the French company Valeo, and you can walk off and do your business. You could come and present the bulletin, Stuart,
Yeah.
and the car parks itself. This French company hoping that this will take off when it starts to be equipped on cars from 2017. What do you think of that?
I'm not impressed. It still doesn't do the ironing, does it? I mean, what I really want is something that does the ironing.
Never happy, is he, this man?
I'm never happy. Matthew with Business, thank you very much. Now, it's time for today's web news on France 24. It starts with the chemical attack in Syria, as seen by the country's artists.
A black gas mask with a yellow dummy. This image by artist Anwar El Aissa was posted online after the poisonous gas attack on a Damascus suburb on August 21st. An appalling attack that has had a profound impact on Syrian artists who are depicting the civil war through their artworks. In pieces exhibited on Facebook, painters like Ala Hamama try to convey the horror of the chemical attack that left hundreds dead. Others have been focusing on the heavy price paid by the many children killed in the attack. Suzanne El Aboud, for example, has made these plaster sculptures portraying infants who she says are the primary victims of the Syrian conflict. Illustrator Imrano Vifaor denounces a slow pace of international talks regarding military intervention against the Bashar al-Assad regime. Other artists have explored a similar theme, singling out the US, which said the use of chemical weapons crossed a global red line. But others remind us that it's not just these unconventional weapons hurting or killing civilians. Artist Ahmed Ali has created this logo made from pieces of bread to denounce the government troops' blocking of food supplies to rebel-controlled refugee camps. He sees this food deprivation as another lethal weapon. A photo showing what appears to be a woman's body, her head missing or out of shot, in the back of a truck. This image left countless American web users wondering for 10 days or so after it was posted to community site Reddit at the end of August. Snapped at Wilmington, North Carolina by Google's Street View service, the snap soon went viral, fueling all sorts of speculation. Many web users were in no doubt. It's a dead body. Yes, netizens got their detective hats on and were trying to prove their theory by pointing out the bizarre angles of the arms and legs, saying they would suggest a lifeless corpse. Others challenged these suspicions, saying it was highly unlikely a murderer would be crazy enough to carry around a dead body in broad daylight without even trying to cover it up. But as the Daily Star News Online reported, local police were prompted to open an official investigation. And it wasn't in vain, because the Wilmington Police Department managed to solve the mystery, determining that the figure in question was actually a dummy named Oscar, used by the Coast Guard Search and Rescue Services for training purposes. Just 6 months on after exceeding the 100 million users mark, photo sharing site Instagram has announced on its blog that it now has over 150 million monthly active users, a staggering figure that illustrates the social network's growing global popularity and suggests a rosy future for the platform, which was bought by Facebook last year. A new trend has emerged on microblogging site Sina Weibo, with Chinese web users posting cringe-worthy pics using a tag that translates as showing off some embarrassing photos of our childhood. Most of them are studio shots commissioned by parents and see children wearing all sorts of costumes, makeup, or dressed up as adults. Yes, these hilariously awkward childhood photos are proving very popular on Chinese social networks. An aerial view of the 2013 edition of the famous Burning Man Festival, which is held annually in the Nevada desert in the US. This video was posted online by Tugrik Didshi and was filmed by strapping a camera to a remote-controlled aircraft. The results are stunning, and you can check out the video in its entirety on all good video sharing platforms.
Yeah, impressive to see a camera that's light enough, isn't it? Coming up for you next here on France 24, all the latest, of course, on Barack Obama's speech on Syria, as he says the Russian plan for peace should be given a chance, but if no military action is still needed. And in today's Asia Live, we're going to be reporting from South Korea as it prepares, along with the North, to reopen the strategic, even historic Kaesong industrial complex 5 months after it was shut down amid high diplomatic tension. All that coming up for you in the next half hour here on France 24, so don't go away.
UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon talks to France 24 ahead of this month's session of the UN General Assembly. On the agenda, all the burning international issues, Syria and its consequences for the Middle East, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and Iran's nuclear capacity, plus crises in Africa, in Mali, the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic. Don't miss this exclusive interview on France 24 and France24.com.